Okay, let's see here. This article is from the New York Times, Sunday, July 26th, but it's dated July 25th, 2020, when it was printed. These monkeys were once revered, now they're taken over. The monkeys of Lopburi, Thailand were once a draw for tourists and pilgrims who would feed them. But with few recent visitors, the monkeys are getting hungry and aggressive. They're all over the streets now. Lopburi, Thailand. Let me say, when I first went to Thailand, I think it was 2004, I went to Chiang Mai, got some post postcards, and there was something called the Lopburi dance, actually. Let me hold this up right here. You can see the girls doing the Lopburi dance. That's about all I know about Lopburi. I had no idea there were monkeys roaming around. But anyway, so in broad daylight, they watch a thief steal an iced tea and a vandal brazenly attack a motorcycle seat. One woman quit her place in the line when a stalker crept up and threatened to bite her. With a sigh, a police officer brandished a slingshot, and the monkeys scattered. Less than a minute later, they were back. Lopburi, a one-time capital of a Siamese kingdom and a repository of ancient architecture, is a city under siege. Crab-eaten macas, a Southeast Asian species with piercing eyes and curious natives, are spilled out of the temples where they once revered and taken over the heart of the old town. Let me just say here that Siam, of course, is the old name for Thailand. Right? So that was the old name for Thailand, the capital of the Siamese kingdom. Their growing population, at least 8,400 in the area, with most concentrated in a few city blocks, has decimated parts of the local economy, with territorial troops of Macas roaming the neighborhood. Dozens of businesses, including a music school, gold shop, barber, cell phone store, and movie theater, have been forced to close in recent years. The coronavirus pandemic has added to the chaos. The frolicking monkeys drew droves of tourists as well as Buddhist faithful who believe feeding the animals is a meritorious deed. Their favorite offerings included coconut yogurt, strawberry soda, which is really a lot of junk food, street stuff. Strawberry soda and brightly colored snack packs. Now the Macas don't understand where the source of sustenance has gone, and they're hungry. Of course, they can't read the news and understand there's a pandemic, so they have no idea where their food is gone. So now they're out in droves and they're angry. Over the years, the monkeys moved into abandoned buildings, trashing display cases and rattling the bars installed to keep them out. Unless security guards are vigilant, they rip antennas and windshield wipers off parked cars. Well, if you ever been to Thailand and look at security guards, good luck finding some who are vigilant because sometimes they often fall off to sleep. In the middle of the day, you see security guards sitting there sleeping, snoring. Maybe it's the heat. Who knows? But that's a common sight in Thailand. Dangling earrings, sunglasses, and plastic bags that look like they may have food in them are irresistible to the monkeys. And in the areas of the city most densely packed with animals, many residents live in fear of the next sneak attack. But in a Buddhist majority culture in which calling monkeys, which is less than, killing them off, would disturb spiritual sensibilities, local officials and residents have few options to fend off the gangs of makers. Besides, in the past, the monkeys drew tourists to Lopburi. Without them, the economy might suffer even more. At a hardware store across the street from the ruins of a 13th century Hindu temple, oversized stuffed animals in the shape of crocodiles and tigers peer out at the street, where the monkey traffic outpaces that of pedestrians. The plush toys were meant to scare away the monkeys, and it worked for a couple of months. But the Maccas soon figured out that they weren't real, said Yupa Srisangoan, the shop owner. It has never been this bad, Miss Yupa said, as a young male Macca wandered into her store, intent on chewing the loops of rubber hose hanging from the ceiling. We are not against the monkeys, but it's difficult when people are afraid of being bitten when they come to our store. Here we see lots of monkeys being given food by some tourists, and some are here at the gate of a business, so they can easily go inside. If there's any food in there and boxes stored, they can easily break in. When she was a little girl, Miss Yupa Soundy said the monkeys were fewer, bigger, and healthier. Their fur shiny and thick. They kept to the temples, so they used to stay in the temples, as well as the ruins of the ancient Kama civilization that once held sway over this part of central Thailand. So when I was on a trip back in 2017, I learned that the Kama was a great empire back in those days. I guess going back maybe like the 16th century, 15th century, and they ruled a good part of Southeast Asia, and which included parts of Thailand and so forth. And eventually, the Siamese or Siam, which is now Thailand, they were able to defeat the Kama empire eventually. And back in those days, Siam or Thailand had no king. So you might have heard of Angkor Wat. That's where you have these temples in Cambodia, Angkor Wat. When you go to Siem Reap, around that area. So they were a great civilization. So great civilizations come and go, as you know. So they were great, and look at them today. Something like Greece. Greece used to be a great civilization at one time. Look at Greece today. We barely hear anything about Greece, right? Not that much about Greece anymore. But with an influx of monkey-enchanted visitors, some foreign came an easy and often unhealthy font of food. Along with bananas and citrus, the Macas feasted on junk. Their fur thinned, some went bald, without having to worry about their next meal. The monkeys, which can give birth twice a year, had more time for other pursuits. The population exploded. Compared with the monkeys of the forest, their urban counterparts have less muscle and are more susceptible to hypertension and blood pressure. That means they're probably not too active. They're probably not climbing. You gain muscle when you can actually exercise and so forth. Like in the wild, the monkeys climb the trees. Said Naramporn Duam, the director of the regional office of the Wildlife Conservation Department. The monkeys are never hungry, he said, just like children who eat too much KFC. As traffic recently piled up at a light in Old Town Lopburi, Narad Fallen Guran, a police officer, kept his slingshot at the ready. He has been stationed at this street corner for 5 years and has watched the growing monkey population with alarm. A truck, presumably from out of town, idled at the light, its flatbed filled with crates of fruit for the market. A monkey spotted the produce, wove through the traffic, leapt onto the truck, and held aloft a juicy dragon fruit. The one expeditionary Mac Mac drew dozens more. By the time the light turned green, the crates were cleared, and the gorging began. I can imagine how that driver has to explain to his boss when he got to the market and there were no fruits on the flatbed at the pickup. What he's gonna say. Throughout the mayhem, Mr. Nered raised his slingshot, but there was little police officer could do against so many markers. His battle tactic was a charade anyway. The slingshot held no projectile. It's hopeless, he said. Within a blink of an eye, there are more monkeys, so many babies. Local wildlife officials have begun sterilizing the monkeys en masse to control their numbers. More than 300 animals underwent surgery last month, and 200 more will be sterilized in August. Capturing the monkeys for the operation is a major undertaking, said Mr. Narangpong, the wildlife official. On the first day of the June campaign, the monkey catchers wore camouflage printed uniforms and lured the animals into cages with food. But by the second day, the monkeys knew to avoid them. The monkey catchers had to switch to wearing shorts and floral shirts, pretending they were holiday makers. The monkeys are smart, Mr. Narangpong said. They remember. With the coronavirus dissuading many tourists and Buddhist pilgrims from visiting Lopburi, local markets have taken to feeding the monkeys themselves, local residents. We can't let them starve, said Idifat Tansitiko Bati, the owner of the Mong Dong Hotel. Every day, an old female monkey calls on his hotel, waiting politely for her meal to be served. Banana cake is her favorite, but plain fruit will do too. A long time ago, a lot of Lopburi was forest, so we had taken the land from the monkeys, Mr. Itipat said. A third-generation hotelier, he has relinquished the top floor to the monkeys, who have wrecked it with the zeal of drunken partygoers, ripping up wooden blankets and shredding corrugated metal. Wow. An electric fence protects the ground floor of the hotel. But even before the coronavirus hit, visitors, many of whom were traveling business people, were scared off by the marauding monkeys. Mr. Itzpat said his hotel barely survives. The balance between humans and monkeys is off, he said. It hurts businesses. Nearby, Patty Fan, Tante Wong runs a general store on the main street of Lopburi. He has given in to the Macas A plump male sat on bags of dog food, sipping a yogurt drink. A clutch of youngsters swarmed a counter, waiting for handouts of cookies. There were monkeys among the piles of batteries and monkeys among the light bulbs. The babies squeaked and played a form of maca, peekaboo. The monkeys were here before us, Mr. Platypus said, as a juvenile tugged on the hem of his trousers, demanding a treat. We have to adapt to them, not the other way around. So here's a picture here of one of the general store. And look at all these monkeys. In the image here, count about 19 monkeys looking for food. That reminds me of some people you see begging, you know. You see a beggar maybe one day and you give him something, but if you go the same route every day, you see the same person begging. You can't afford to do it, to be giving the same people, or people come in the train every day begging. It's like these monkeys every day. So many monkeys looking for food. You know, you go out of business. You can't feed them all. That is really crazy. Anyway, so that's the story. Monkeys, monkeys taking over Lopburi, Thailand. That's, I tell you. Yeah, and I've seen people made videos of monkeys coming up to them stealing in other parts of Thailand. They visited an area where monkeys are, and the monkeys would grab things from them and run away. So, and they can be very vicious too, those monkeys. You know, according to Charles Darwin, he theorized the survival of the fittest. So, if you can't be aggressive enough to go out there and find food on your own, you die. That's how it is. I think people feeding these monkeys, that's where the problem is. If you stop feeding them, sooner or later, they're going to find ways to get food and to feed themselves. And that's the whole idea behind Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest, right?